In 1989, Lucille Ball, the beloved TV icon who captivated 44 million viewers each week, passed away in near isolation. Her grand mansions echoed only with the steps of hired staff, while her children and Hollywood friends distanced themselves. What led the most adored comedian in America to fade into obscurity? The answer lies in betrayal, financial mismanagement, and a family secret that unraveled her world. Lucille's life was shaped by tragedy. At just 3, she lost her father to typhoid fever, leaving her mother overwhelmed with grief. Lucille was sent to live with her aunt, and her baby brother went to their grandparents. She would later reflect on how loss defined her childhood. One vivid moment stayed with her forever. After hearing the news of her father's death, a picture fell from the wall, and sparrows began pecking at the kitchen window, marking the start of her lifelong, inexplicable fear of birds. At 12, disaster struck again. During a backyard target practice, a young neighbor boy was accidentally shot and paralyzed. The Ball family lost everything in the ensuing lawsuit, including their home and insurance. Lucille's grandfather, guilt-ridden, never worked again, and the family was forced to leave town. At 14, Lucille became involved with a 21-year-old troublemaker named Johnny DeVita, a romance her mother desperately tried to stop. In a desperate attempt to steer Lucille away from what she saw as a disastrous future, her mother scraped together every penny and sent her to a prestigious drama school in New York City. The hope was to help Lucille find success, but it didn't go as planned. Lucille ended up in the same class as Bette Davis, but their paths couldn't have been more different. While Davis thrived, Lucille struggled. Her teachers told her she lacked the talent to make it, and some even returned her mother's money, declaring she would never amount to anything. Years later, Lucille admitted that she left that experience with only one lesson: fear. But instead of letting it defeat her, it ignited a fire. In 1928, she returned to New York, undeterred by the rejection. But just as things started to align, disaster struck: rheumatic fever. For 2 long years, Lucille could barely move, let alone perform. Most people would have given up, but not Lucille. When she finally recovered, she returned to the stage with renewed determination. Around the same time, she landed a modeling job with designer Hattie Carnegie. Carnegie saw something in her and suggested a drastic change. Lucille needed to bleach her brown hair blonde. Without hesitation, Lucille agreed. This transformation marked the beginning of her new identity. Modeling taught her how to captivate an audience without speaking, a skill she hadn't learned in acting school. Though still chasing acting roles, modeling had sharpened her presence and poise. Throughout the 30s and early 40s, Lucille took any role she could get: background parts, forgettable leads, and slapstick comedies. Over 75 films later, she was still far from the stardom she craved. Hollywood had dubbed her the Queen of B-movies. Though she joked about it, it stung. No matter how hard she worked, the studios tried to mold her into something she wasn't. But Lucille refused to give up. The unremarkable roles gave her experience, and over time, she built the skills and knowledge needed to become a star on her own terms. Then, in 1940, Lucille met Desi Arnaz on the set of Too Many Girls. Lucille was established, while Desi was just starting to make waves in Hollywood. From the moment they met, something clicked. Desi teased, "I can teach you to rumba, but only if you go out with me tonight." Lucille was captivated. Desi was charming, energetic, and everything she'd ever dreamed of. The chemistry was undeniable, and the crew noticed immediately. Some even bet on how long the relationship would last, but Lucille couldn't stay away. She was hooked. Lucille admitted that Desi scared her a little. He was wild, unpredictable, a force she couldn't ignore. Yet that was exactly what drew her to him. After filming wrapped, they kept their passionate connection alive with long-distance phone calls, costing her an eye-popping $29,000. In November 1940, both in New York, Lucille did a magazine interview and bluntly declared their relationship could never work. But after a heated argument over Desi seeing another woman, Lucille stormed to his apartment, furious. What happened next shocked everyone. Desi proposed. Without hesitation, they drove to Connecticut to elope, just 6 months after meeting. Their marriage stunned many. Hollywood in the 1940s wasn't kind to interracial couples. Studios didn't believe a Cuban man and a white woman could work, either on screen or off. When Lucille wanted to bring her radio show to television, CBS resisted her insistence that Desi play her husband. They doubted audiences would accept it, but Lucille stood firm, later calling their elopement the most daring thing she ever did. Friends were skeptical. "I gave it 6 weeks," Lucille said. "They gave it 6 months." Trouble soon followed. Desi was constantly on the road with his band, while Lucille's work schedule kept her out late. Their lives barely intersected. To make matters worse, Desi's upbringing, where infidelity was tolerated, led him to believe cheating didn't affect his emotional loyalty to Lucille. For her, it was painful, and his growing drinking problem only made matters worse. By 1944, just 4 years into their marriage, Lucille filed for divorce. Their fights were loud and constant. Their daughter Lucy later recalled a childhood filled with nothing but yelling. Yet even after the divorce papers were filed, Lucille and Desi couldn't stay away from each other. They reconciled in what some called a fiery reunion, though this pattern of breaking up and getting back together would repeat itself. Then, in 1950, they had an idea. If working apart had torn them apart, maybe working together could keep them together. CBS approached Lucille to turn her hit radio show, My Favorite Husband, into a TV series. But Lucille had one condition. Desi had to play her husband. The network resisted, citing his Cuban heritage, accent, and their belief that audiences wouldn't accept him as her husband. At that time, interracial marriages were rare on TV, and in some U.S. states they were still illegal. But Lucille wasn't backing down. To prove they could work as a team, Lucille and Desi embarked on a live stage tour, performing comedy sketches and musical numbers across the country. The audiences went wild, and critics praised them. The undeniable chemistry between them led CBS to finally cast Desi in I Love Lucy. But getting the show on the air wasn't easy. CBS wanted to film in New York, but Lucille refused to leave Hollywood. This decision would change television history. Together with producer Jess Oppenheimer, Desi pioneered a new filming technique, using 3 cameras in front of a live studio audience. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The technique allowed for uninterrupted scenes, capturing authentic laughter and reactions. Desi also insisted on using high-quality 35mm film instead of blurry videotape. The couple took a pay cut in exchange for ownership of the episodes through their production company, Desilu, a move that made I Love Lucy one of the first major syndication success stories. In 1952, Lucille's pregnancy with their second child posed another challenge. CBS and sponsor Philip Morris didn't want pregnancy shown on TV. Lucille and Desi stood their ground, creating a clever workaround by using terms like expecting and with child. The episode where Lucy gives birth aired in January 1953, the same day Lucille gave birth in real life, attracting a staggering 44 million viewers. I Love Lucy became unstoppable. For 4 of its 6 seasons, it dominated the ratings, remaining the most watched show in America when it wrapped in 1957. The show won 5 Emmys, and Lucille earned 1 for Best Comedian. Decades later, I Love Lucy was still beloved, with reruns airing worldwide and polls naming it the best TV show of all time. Behind the scenes, Lucille and Desi had already created Desilu Productions, which grew into the largest independent TV studio in the country. They bought RKO Studios for $6 million and produced iconic shows like The Untouchables and The Andy Griffith Show. But by 1960, their marriage ended. Lucille bought out Desi's shares for $2.5 million and became the boss of Desilu Productions, making her the first woman to run a major Hollywood studio. Despite doubts, Lucille proved herself as a business mogul, managing massive budgets and pioneering syndication. In 1966, Lucille made one of her boldest moves, greenlighting 2 risky shows, Star Trek and Mission Impossible. Lucille Ball's bold decision to greenlight Star Trek and Mission Impossible in 1966, despite her team's doubts, proved to be a game-changer, and both shows became iconic. By 1967, Desilu was thriving, and Lucy sold the studio for $17 million, solidifying her legacy in TV. She and Desi also revolutionized TV by insisting I Love Lucy be filmed in California on 35mm film, creating the syndication industry and making reruns possible. The show has generated over $700 million in rerun revenue. In 1953, Lucille faced a career-threatening scandal when she was linked to communism. She denied any ties, and Desi defended her, even arranging for J. Edgar Hoover to confirm her innocence. The scandal faded, and Lucille was named Woman of the Year. After her 1960 divorce from Desi, Lucille remarried Gary Morton in 1961. Despite career setbacks like Wildcat, she found happiness with him. Her TV career rebounded with The Lucy Show and Here's Lucy. At 74, she took on a dramatic role in Stone Pillow, but her final sitcom, Life with Lucy, was canceled after 8 episodes. Lucille's enduring love for Desi remained even after their divorce. She spent his final days with him, and he passed away 2 days after their 46th wedding anniversary. Lucille passed away in April 1989, leaving behind a legacy of resilience and humor that still inspires today. Please subscribe to our channel for more videos, and don't forget to press the bell icon.